Cashmere Stream Care Group, Dave East. I hope you haven't brought any needlework with you or anything
The other
like
coast.
That. Oh, did I say east? Did I say east?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, David East isn't here, so he doesn't know. Oh no, of course he'll be watching this, the live stream. Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave.
Should we get it there?
Yeah, should flip back up. Then just the arrows there to make
Cool. Okay. Right, thank you for the opportunity to talk to such a distinguished group of people. So I'm talking today on behalf of the Cashmere Stream Care Group and their Pawaho Heathcote River Network Group. So without further ado, just sort of, we support quite a few things that are happening in Christchurch, some of which will stop as part of your result of your proposed plan. Anyway, we obviously support enhancing the biodiversity of waterways, streams, wetlands, springs, wetlands, etc., and rivers in Christchurch. We're actually quite impressed with the no cutting trial on the lower Pawaho Heathcote. Like to know whether that's going to continue, or so that's the sort of thing that we'd like to see more of and hear about. There's science-based decisions around flood mitigation and restoration. As far as we know, there's a hydrological model for the Pawaho Heathcote River. We'd like to see how that's used for both good and bad. So the creation of ponds, wetlands, swales to capture surface runoff rather than pipes. Christchurch has a legacy of piped stormwater that are turning our quite nice rivers, streams into raging torrents, carrying sediment and pollutants to the river themselves, but also to the sea. There are some really good biodegradable chemical treatments for stabilising soils and minimising runoff and silt and flocculating the silt out of ponds. This is obviously for the Port Hills. The Port Hills are shedding a lot of sediment to the Pawaho Heathcote and the Cashmere Stream, and they'll continue to do so until people make more of an effort to keep it on the hill. We obviously like notifying and consulting public and environmental groups and decisions on waterways. Probably we had a similar experience to one of the previous speakers on the proposed plan. So this, I'd much rather something more targeted like this. We also support managed retreat from flood-prone areas. So the red zone, again, one of the previous speakers said that managed retreat is actually something that Christchurch just shouldn't think about, should actually be doing and implementing. It's a legacy that you'll leave people 4 or 5 years down, which hopefully they'll thank you for. So that was good stuff. What we don't support is funds being removed from the natural waterways, enhancement, or even just anything to do with them. Building right up and into the stream river channel. There's some examples there where you can see it's happening, and it's still happening in some places around Christchurch. The Greenfields area, notwithstanding. There have been, I'm a freshwater ecologist, probably about 7 years ago, I heard about all this great stuff happening in Christchurch. It's all stopped. Creus, you know what's happening with that anymore. Flockton Basin, really. That's like 1960s, really. Building hard infrastructure on the riverbanks. We've heard now that bike paths are going to be stuck right beside the river. So instead of letting the river do its thing, we're going to put a bike path right beside it. I've talked about the poor erosion on the Port Hills, polluting. You'll see some pictures there. We could go down to the stream where it joins the Pawaho Heathcote today, and the same thing's happening. Sewage discharge. We've got sewage discharge to our waterways still occurring, which again, for one of New Zealand's top cities, I just find that a bit hard to stomach. Pun the pun. So we've got lots of information. We've, as groups, we've done action plans, etc., out the wazoo. So we've got those here, and there's a whole lot of them. You can go to our websites, etc. So anyway, that's me. Open to questions.
Good, Yanni.
Thank you. Given the fires that we've seen on the hills and the impact of the development on the hills, would you also support us looking at a sort of retreat away from building, enabling increased development on the hills?
I think it can be done if it's done properly. I think Rock Hills, Dan Van Ash's work has shown that it can be done. Unfortunately, Westmoreland Stage 2 wasn't done well, so I think it's not a blanket ban. I think you might want to look at parts of the hill that don't build in gullies, maybe, but the flat ridges. So I wouldn't support a blanket ban. But yeah.
Phil?
Can you explain your concern about having a cycleway close to a river and how we might mitigate that then? Or a walkway?
Yeah. There's just been a really cool project looking at inanga spawning, whitebait spawning in the lower Apaua, Heathcote and Avon. So during the floods, those areas are actually used by the fish and by the river itself. Rivers normally have a floodplain that they can get to and spread out on. If you put a paved or even a path there, there's no vegetation, there's nothing for anything to spawn.
So you'd say separate it and,
and
leave
back.
an area of natural.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Dion?
In your submission, thanks for your submission, it was awesome. But in your submission, you mentioned use digital and other methods to empower local democracy. Could you just elaborate a little bit about what you're thinking, and so that we can have an idea of what we should do from your perspective?
Yeah, so we try quite hard with our email lists and stuff like that to reach out to people who want to care for the streams and rivers like we do. And I think, we're one aspect of the community. I think I'd like something a bit more coordinated rather than me just sending out an email to 40 people and missing people. So I also think situations like this, when we've done our action plans, we've tried to have a holistic plan which represents people who are concerned about flooding as well as looking after the fish and bugs in the stream. So if you can help us and you yourselves can be more holistic in gathering the community's aspirations for the rivers, then all for it. By digital means.
Aaron?
Yeah, thank you for raising the cutting of funding towards the waterway enhancement program. I was unaware of that until yesterday when I was on a tour of the Sticks along with some of the others here, and some of the work they've been doing out there was fantastic, and I think some of the best value for money the entire city gets is our enhancement around the waterways and the replanting programs, and it's something we should, as an entire city, be really proud of. And so that original program, before it was trimmed, do you think that was going far enough and doing enough work? Still being realistic, because obviously probably someone in your position might say you could never spend enough, but
I think they're very economical ways. We have been recipients of funding as well, and with ECAN's money and our own help and the landowners' help, you get a massive synergy payoff. So I think in terms of cost effectiveness, it's a bit of a no-brainer. I think the scales, we find it hard when we give our weekends to looking after the stream, and you go down and there's a digger in the stream pulling out stuff. Someone's done some other stuff. So I think, with a little bit of care in the red zone and re-cambering the banks and stuff like that, it wouldn't actually, even if you just turned it from a U-shaped channel to perhaps a more natural riverbank with the done, so I don't think it has to be expensive. I don't know whether I answered your question.
You kind of had, I think you've also put up a flag to say restore that funding to what it was as well, I think is one of your points. Yeah.
I was just looking for, while you were talking, somebody posted, I posted a picture of, I don't know, one part, I always post pictures of streams and the river and various things. Horseshoe Lake, which is near where I live. And this person put a post on to show concerns that she had over the other side of town in the Heathcote. And then kind of said about how dreadful it was that we weren't mowing right down to the thing, and then put a post of the picture of the trial that we're doing there, not the non-cutting trial, in order to support the spawning of the I'm going to say whitebait, so there you go. So how do we get the message across to those in the community that don't understand that actually having pristine edges is not necessarily going to support the health of our rivers?
I think a lot of that concerns, I think there's two aspects to that concern. One's about flooding. They think it's going to flood their property. So you could actually use science, the hydrological model, to counter that, to show that rougher banks with grass on them aren't actually going to contribute that much to the flooding of their property. The second one is really, I don't know, it's harder. People just like flat mowed lawns. So I don't know whether that's an education thing as well, showing people that if you have that long grass, and we've started with the waka inanga, the inanga spawning thing, that actually that contributes something, it has value, particularly beside a river or stream. So that's harder, but it's an educational thing. Probably.
No, it was just that the message is on the board, but kind of the message was being mocked because it was kind of like, we actually know what you're really doing, you're just saving money by not cutting the grass.
Yeah, well that could have, that probably would have helped as well, like win-win. It's good for the river and it's actually saving your ratepayers money. So.
And it's also good for the river too, because we learnt this yesterday, Aaron and Mike on the sticks, that grass is the best filter for the contaminants, the metal contaminants that we get off the roads.
Which is why wetlands are such a good way of cleaning the water from stormwater before it goes into the river. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. A very interesting and worthwhile submission. Thank you. I'll get you to monitor my Facebook page for me.